capture. Hi, Bernhard.
Hi, Carsten.
What are we doing now?
Yeah, now we are getting our hands dirty, or you are getting your hands dirty with setting this up. And we start with the management network, but let me, talk you a little bit through of what we are doing here and what happened. So, we are not starting from scratch. So you have prepared the node. That means you have installed the operating system, you did the driver updates, you did also a feature installation. And if you wonder what that looks like, I would advise you to go to these series because we did it in the other general Azure Stack HCI installation series, right? So these steps would be the same for a stretch cluster. However, difference starts at the management network, and that's what we do here in this one, right? Okay, so management network, what's it for? You talked about it in the general networking overview about stretch cluster. So maybe just a brief summary. It's for the nodes to the nodes communication, the heartbeats. It's for the nodes to the domain controller communication, DNS, name resolution, management. So if we want to do, administration using Windows Admin Center, for example, or do remote desktop, that's the network we are using. Also for the cluster going to Azure, for example, for looking up the cloud witness. That's also this network. And maybe you have a backup. We don't, but you may have. And also this network is the one that the cluster uses for, or will use for registration with Azure and reporting its billing use, right? The difference is we have two of those, right? So we have two sites, odd and even. So we need to have two management networks. And the cluster will finally have two IP addresses on either of the management networks. But that's a thing when we create the cluster. So let me summarize that up or try to put some sort of graphics here that you may know from the general networking overview presentation we did for the stretch cluster. So here are our 4 nodes in odd and even. And you could see it also by the numbering. So the last octet of the IP addresses will be, in our case, starting from 51 to up to 54. And that's what we are building. And we are using that last octet for a management network, for example, in this case, right? So that's what we are building. But we are building only, or we demonstrate only the creation of one of these networks. So please trust us. We also create in behind the curtain the other one. But I don't think that watching PowerShell code twice is too funny. So that's
4 times. It's not.
it's not. It's not so funny. So we'll do it only one. Okay. Yes, and I think that's it, Carsten. So I'll hand over to
a small look at the hardware. You don't want to do that, right?
Yeah, I always forget it. Sorry. Apologies for that. So when it comes to our hardware, these are the 2 ports which we are stitching together, right? And we are stitching it together into a set switch, right? And we call it management. And on top of this, we are creating a virtual management or a virtual adapter, which we call management. And this is the only adapter we are configuring for the management traffic. So this is the one we are using the IP addresses on to talk to the domain controller, for example. Right?
Yeah, I have a question here, Bernhard, that I know the answer. I know you know the answer, but I get it often in my courses,
yes.
for example.
Yes.
So if you have Windows Server, or we did it the last years, we don't use a set switch or a Hyper-V switch to connect to adapters to a virtual one. There was this LBFO, or there is the LBFO teaming. And why don't we use that here?
Yeah. Yeah. And the answer is it's not supported. And the second answer would be which is more practical. I don't think that that is
It's
being
well
worked on.
developed, so
Well,
it's
yeah,
finished. It-
no more feature adds will be in there. So the strategy looks like going to bit into the set switch direction, right?
yeah.
There
So I
is
will
a
add something. I
yeah.
will add something here. So you have to be a bit more careful than I am. I'm only a Microsoft MVP, not an employee.
Mm,
So I'm pretty sure the LBFO team is feature complete.
mm,
uh, is a nice wording for nobody does anything there anymore. And
mm,
I guess even if we found bugs, they will not bring patches for that. In Azure Stack HCI, you should or must use the set switch to
mm,
team up adapters, and it's a great way to do that. We have Hyper-V installed on the nodes anyway because Azure
mm,
Stack HCI only supports Hyper-V as a workload. In Windows Server, I also use a set switch in my recent deployments with Storage Bases Direct, if Hyper-V is involved, because the LBFO teaming is done, and um, better using the new stuff that is actively developed or actively cared about
yep.
than something old stuff. Yeah. Okay, now we will switch to my screen, and I will shock you with PowerShell. So we don't, I try to not go too deep into the script. First, you wonder maybe why is he showing a notepad? This is what, because I'm on the console of an Azure Stack HCI node. I
Mm,
don't have network yet, so I can't connect to the system via RDP. I have to go via the BMC of my service, or
mm,
I have to wander in my IT area and use really the console. And I don't want to do that with a head camera, and it would be very loud. So I use the BMC,
mm,
and I'm here logged in. And if I do a get net on a, let's do it like this.
mhm,
We see after the installation, Bernhard told you already, I've done some stuff here, operating system, yada, yada, yada. We have now here multiple Ethernet adapters, and you see here multiple vendors. And if you look, we have even some adapters that are disabled that we don't use in this stretch cluster scenario. So they
mhm,
are in here, but they are not used.
mhm,
We want to have this 1 gigabit adapter, and there's another one here
mhm,
uh, in our set switch. So um, where is now my notepad? There it is. So let's open it, scroll a bit up. I have to place it a bit so you can see it. So first, this is just asking me if I don't provide it for the last IP octet, so the last address. We want to use this script on every node. So
mm,
it asks us what is the IP address 51, 52, 53, 54.
mhm,
Yeah. Then I have some constants. How is the name of the switch? How is the name of the adapter? Which domain name server used in the odd side and the even side? They are the same. Then I extract if the node is on even or odd. I extract out of the computer name. So our hosts have to be already named. Yeah,
mhm,
and they have in the last character there's a 1, 2, 3, 4. So I can see if it's an even
mhm,
character or an odd character and use that to specify is it in the even side or in the odd side.
mhm,
So here we have to do something that is specific to the network because the odd nodes, yeah, in the odd
mhm,
side, they have a different network than the even ones. Yeah. Here we find out is this odd or even, and then we set the management network, the net mask, the VLAN where the network lives in, and the default
mhm,
gateway, and also the DNS server. And we do that if the node is odd, this part is used, and if it's even, this part is used. Then we want to create a set switch on two network adapters. So we have to catch them somehow, and I use the name of the in the interface description. There's the I350 in it, so I get the two adapters and have that in that array. So then I will clean up a bit. I will remove if there is a VM switch. I will remove it and start from scratch. Yeah?
mhm,
Here we create our VM switch. with a lot of parameters. You see here are our two adapters. We don't allow a management interface. We will that create manually. And there's also enable SIOV, I would say, here at the end. And we also enable switch embedded teaming. We don't have to do that because if we do two adapters, it's always a set switch.
It's the default, right?
Yeah, right. And if you have one adapter and do the new VM switch, you have to specify enable switch embedded teaming if you want a set switch. Otherwise, it would do a classic switch. And the classic switch has the same situation than the LBFO team. It's feature complete. Okay, nothing happens there anymore. So use the set switch, please. Then we add our management adapter. Yeah, we use this line for that with the specified name we have. And then we configure a VLAN ID on that management adapter because in this scenario, every packet, every Ethernet packet has to have also a VLAN ID or VLAN header attached. Okay, so this is the creation of our virtual adapter of the set switch with our one adapter. But of course, now it would get a DHCP address if we would have a DHCP server in those networks, and we don't want that. We want static IP addresses. We are not in Azure; we are on premises here. So usually people use static IP addresses or do DHCP reservations. But I'm an old guy; I prefer to do static IP. And this is a part where we do that. So it looks like a lot. I'm just going safe. I enable DHCP. I disable DHCP just to clear if there is any settings on the network card. Then I uh, I put a network address on it. Here's a little bit calculation management net plus the last octet. We enable IPv6 on the adapter because every cluster that is supported has to have IPv6 enabled, at least on the management adapter. And then we configure our DNS servers that our host can reach the Active Directory domain. They are not Active Directory domain joined yet. We will do that in later videos, but it has to find the stuff over the management interface. And this is something I do forever. I disable NetBIOS on the management adapter, but you don't must do that. You don't have to do that. I do it just because I do it anytime. And then in the last step, we rename the two adapters to these names that look a little bit better than Ethernet 2 and Ethernet 4. I like to have the names in the adapter. And that's all the magic. And now we are doing the script part by part. Yeah. So let's go here, from here, where all the, go up, where all the variables are set. It asked me for the last octet. That would be the 51. And then we have our variable set. And if we want to watch this, we just look for this variable. There should be the 99 in it because the node is odd. So we use the odd settings. So this part just fetches the adapters. Yeah, now we have our adapters. Here we remove the switch if there is any. So we don't have any switches anymore. Let's see if there is one. No, we don't have a Hyper-V switch. Then the stuff where we create the new switch, add a virtual adapter, and add a VLAN tag is this. So now if we do the get net adapter again, we see we have our vEthernet management. That is the virtual adapter that is using the set switch. We have that. You see, the adapters are still with these Ethernet names. Yeah, we care about that a little bit later. And if we look for the IP configuration, you see our adapter. There is no DHCP server, so it has an APIPA address. And of course, we want to give it address. This is this part where we do all the IP configuration. So let's do that. That was not what I wanted. Let's do a copy here and paste. So it will sleep for 15 seconds. Yeah. It's just if you have a DHCP, if you have an IP configuration, you set it to DHCP. Before you can set it back to not using DHCP, it needs a bit. So here you saw a lot of it was going on. And if I do the IP config / all this time again, you see here, we have our address we wanted, we have our gateway, and we have our DNS servers. Everything is fine. And the last part would be just rename the adapter. This is pure cosmetic. You don't have to do that, but I like my adapters. This is when you use Notepad on the console. So if we do now a get net adapter, you will see here one card is named Intel NIC 2 and one card is Intel NIC 1. And of course, the other adapters will also get nice names in later videos. So I think this concludes our management configuration. I will do that now on every host, and then we do some other stuff before we see each other in the VM network video, where we configure our network for our virtual machines.